The curtains were drawn. No one said the word cancer, not out loud. Not even after he died. When she felt a lump, she told herself to wait, even though she knew better. Doctors did all they could. 60 years later, her cancer was discovered long before it became a lump she could feel. And his doctor found a small polyp and removed it before it even turned into cancer. Taking a morning vitamin? No. She's taking a new, targeted genetic cancer therapy. Then she's going out to play with her grandchild. And see this parade of purple? They're cancer survivors, all of them. And there are 10 million more like them in the United States. Everything is so different now. What happened? We happened. They met in New York City in 1913, an unusual group for the time, medical people, business leaders, and civic leaders, men and women. What they were creating was historic. It would be called the American Society for the Control of Cancer, and it would fight cancer with knowledge. Using the media of the day, this new organization started publishing educational pamphlets, dozens of them, spreading facts, not fears, about cancer. Lives could be saved. Only 1 in 10, it's true. But cancer wasn't the inevitable death sentence people feared. Signs and billboards began springing up. This movie was produced even before movies could talk. Later, the society opened clinics where people could openly come for an accurate cancer diagnosis and the best available treatment. But all of this required money. Raising that much would take an army. That's exactly what the society got. They were called the Women's Field Army, an all-volunteer army of women educating other women about protecting themselves and their families against cancer. Why did they focus on women? Because more women than men, about 1/5 more, were diagnosed with cancer. By 1937, the Women's Field Army had grown to 2 million in 39 states, and their impact was evident. Americans were talking more openly about cancer and going to doctors sooner, and lives were being saved. Now 3 cancer patients in 10 survived. The education efforts were working, but one woman, Mary Lasker, believed the society could be doing more. Mary Lasker and her husband, advertising executive Albert, were New York socialites, prominent philanthropists, and passionate advocates for biomedical research. As Mary once famously said, "If you think research is expensive, try disease." In 1944, Mary Lasker came to the American Society for the Control of Cancer with a question. How close were we to finding a cure? The truth was, the society had put all of its efforts into education and hadn't spent a penny on cancer research. Mary Lasker believed any organization truly fighting cancer had to be searching for a cure, too. She could make that happen, but there were conditions. First, she proposed 1/4 of all money raised by the society would go directly to cancer research. She also proposed expanding the society's board of directors, mostly medical men, to bring in men and women and include experts in other fields, especially advertising and fundraising. Finally, this tongue twister of a name had to go. The modern American Cancer Society was launched. The reorganized society quickly developed a new, easy-to-remember theme for its educational messages of the 1940s and 50s: cancer's 7 danger signals.
Cancer can be cured if treated early. A message that teaches us the 7 common danger signals that may mean cancer. Every American should know what these danger signals are.
The ACS also established a new form of fundraising, the annual Cancer Crusade. Thousands of society volunteers going door to door and face to face.
When you ask for money, you're only asking people to support scientists in a search for answers which may save their lives tomorrow.
The Society's income and reputation grew like never before, and a tradition began of celebrities of the day lending their support to the Society.
Every 3 minutes, day in, day out, someone does die of cancer.
I'm Charlton Heston, and I've got some good news for you from the American Cancer Society.
Join the Great American Smokeout this November 15th.
That means 24 hours, man, without one of these things.
You know, if you'd at least try to quit, it'd be worth my time, because I'm not getting paid for this.
Every woman in America over 35 should know this word, mammography.
The investment in new cancer research, Mary Lasker's vision, began to pay off. Dr. Sidney Farber, the Society's first funding recipient, developed a chemotherapy that sent a childhood leukemia into remission. And when the Society helped fund Dr. James Watson, no one knew he and Dr. Francis Crick would change science and medicine forever. Their discovery? The DNA double helix, the fundamental structure of life. At about the same time, another doctor approached the American Cancer Society, not for its money, but for its voice. In the 1940s, after years of painstaking research, Dr. George Papanicolaou developed a simple lab test to detect cervical cancer cells early, microscopically, before they became cancer. For nearly a decade, his appeals to convince doctors to learn the test and use it fell on resistant ears. Meanwhile, thousands of women were dying. Early in the 1950s, Dr. Pap came to the American Cancer Society. Would the Society use its voice and persuasive clout to convince people that the Pap test could save lives? The Society's decision was unprecedented. It funded an all-out education effort to train doctors and inform women to adopt the annual Pap test.
Doctor, does the Pap test hurt?
You tell me.
You mean that's it?
That's it.
The Pap test can detect cervical cancer early, when it's practically 100% curable. It's a no-hassle test that doesn't hurt, doesn't take much time. For more about the Pap test, call us, your American Cancer Society.
This may not look like it, but this is ACS-funded research in action too. In fact, this kind of research, not this kind of research, led the American Cancer Society to one of its biggest and most important campaigns.
For recent statistics have shown that since 1924, cancer of the lung has increased 24-fold in men and 10-fold in women. The reasons for this increase are not yet finally established.
Lung cancer death rates were skyrocketing. A connection between smoking and lung cancer had been suspected for years, but there was no scientific proof. Instead, smoking was practically patriotic. People even smoked at American Cancer Society National Board meetings. To find out the truth, Dr. E. Kyler Hammond and Dr. Daniel Horn and the American Cancer Society launched a new epidemiological study of the causes of death in men who smoked. What they found is no surprise to us today, but in the early 1950s, it shook the ground.
What we found was people who smoke heavily have about 200 times the risk of developing lung cancer those who do not smoke.
Despite the evidence, Hammond and Horn questioned their own results, maybe because they were both heavy smokers themselves. Hammond launched an even bigger, more ambitious study, the Cancer Prevention Study, or CPS-1. It was a landmark study only the American Cancer Society could accomplish. Think about it. 68,000 unpaid volunteers tracking 1 million men and women in 25 states every year for 14 years. But their work provided irrefutable scientific evidence that cigarette smoking was definitely linked to lung cancer. It was evidence the Surgeon General of the United States could no longer ignore.
It is the judgment of the committee that cigarette smoking contributes substantially to mortality from certain specific diseases and to the overall death rate.
By the mid-1960s, battle lines were drawn for the lives and lungs of Americans young and old, with the federal government fighting the war on cigarette packages and the American Cancer Society fighting the war in the media.
Have you ever thought of what happens when you smoke a cigarette? We have.
Have you tried one? Don't.
Now that I'm gone, I tell you, don't smoke. Whatever you do, just don't smoke.
Would you give a cigarette to your unborn child? You do. Every time you smoke while you're pregnant.
3 decades later, the second cancer prevention study, or CPS-2, revealed links between nutrition, lifestyle, and disease. Today, CPS-3 is underway.
We are here today for the purpose of signing the Cancer Act of 1971. In this room are scores of people who have worked voluntarily for this cause for many, many years. The American Cancer Society, of course, is the best-known organization, but there are many others as well.
With a few strokes of a pen, the National Cancer Act of 1971 declared a war on cancer and a government commitment to pump hundreds of millions of dollars into cancer research. The American Cancer Society and Mary Lasker, by now a longtime honorary chairman of the board, played a major advocacy role in pressuring the government finally to get involved. With the government spending millions, the American Cancer Society could now begin funding new, often young researchers with untried but promising ideas. It was a bold decision, and it paid off with decade after decade of spectacular results. The Society has funded more Nobel laureate researchers than any other nonprofit health organization. In the early days, the Women's Field Army had rolled bandages because that's what cancer patients needed. But as more and more people were surviving cancer, needs were changing, and the Society was right there to help. Therese Lasser, a New York housewife, created the Society's first visitor support program. After facing the shock of her own breast cancer surgery with very little information and even less support, she started making visits to hospitals, talking to women after their surgery, sharing information that only someone who'd been through it could possibly know. Reach to Recovery was born. Other programs followed. Man to Man, a program for prostate cancer survivors helping other men understand and cope with their diagnosis. Look Good, Feel Better, helping women heal from the outside in. And Road to Recovery, a network of volunteer drivers taking patients to and from treatment. But what if getting to the best treatment meant going out of town, not across town? For that, the Society began building Hope Lodges, where patients undergoing treatment could stay absolutely free of charge.
This is a godsend for anyone. I mean, no one can afford to go through some of these cancer treatments and get a hotel that costs $100-something a night. It's like a family. I mean, everyone that comes through that door knows what you're going through.
It was 1985, and one man, Dr. Gordon Klatt, a cancer surgeon, decided to make a personal statement to honor his patients and draw attention to the importance of the cancer fight. He ran and walked around a track for 24 straight hours. The next year, he did it again. Only this time, more friends showed up. That's how it started. The American Cancer Society Relay for Life, the most successful special event in history. Its success can be measured by the number of communities in America and countries around the world that relay, or the number of teams and cancer survivors, or the phenomenal amount of money raised each year. But you can see the real success of Relay on the faces of those who come to celebrate their cancer survivors, to remember loved ones who lost their battles, and to fight back against cancer.
How would I describe Relay to people? How would I describe Relay to anyone that had never been here before? Have you ever seen hope?
The last 2 decades brought an explosion of information about cancer. But where were the answers you could trust?
Thank you for calling your American Cancer Society. This is Kathy. How may I help you?
1-800-ACS-2345 is the only 24-hour cancer hotline offering information that is always clear, concise, accurate, and science-based, and support that is always compassionate. That same year, 1995, Cancer.org went online and judging from the 2 million hits a month, it has become the authoritative source for cancer information on the World Wide Web. Blogs, podcasts, social networking websites, YouTube, wherever and however people need information, we're there. There have been Relay for Life events large and small, but this one may have been the most dramatic. Celebration on the Hill brought the emotional power of Relay and the persuasive power of advocacy to the very heart of this nation. Through its advocacy affiliate, the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network, the Society advocates for laws and policies that help people fight cancer in every community. But it became apparent that in our world today, spreading hope and saving lives have no boundaries. Cancer suffering in other countries cries out.
The suffering is enormous. It's excruciating pain suffered by at least 2 million people in the country, and most of this pain is unnecessary.
The American Cancer Society is assuming its role as a global leader in this global health crisis, training healthcare professionals in our country and in theirs, sharing our knowledge and experience. The American Society for the Control of Cancer was created in 1913 to fight cancer with knowledge. You could say that what we were doing then is what we're doing now, saving lives. We're saving lives by helping people stay well. Today that means helping people actually prevent cancers. We're saving lives by helping people get well, with answers, assistance, and support. We're saving lives by funding miraculous research, several billions of dollars since Mary Lasker's time. And we're saving lives by helping people fight back against cancer. And I'm proud to say there's a role in this fight for everyone. We're at a crossroads in the war on cancer. And as a nation, we must decide if we're going to pursue victory or stand still. The American Cancer Society knows it's a war that can be won, but only if we see it for what it is. A fight for greater investment in research, a fight to make prevention standard procedure, and a fight to ensure that everyone has access to life-saving treatments. It's a fight we can win. This is the American Cancer Society. The day when cancer no longer causes suffering, pain, and death isn't just within sight, it's within reach. And when that day comes, and people ask, what happened? We happened.